You are looking live at the Phoenix A320 in retro Northwest livery. How you doing, everybody? CJ here. I'm your classic jet sim pilot. Wait, I know it's an A320. I know some of you think it's not a classic aircraft, but they were flying more than 25 years ago, which in my book makes it a classic. But also, the other thing is that I just came back from 320 school. It's been a while since I've been in 320 school, and I'd like to talk about it and maybe share some of the things I learned in the week I spent in ground school, and then roughly a week in ground school, and then another week brushing up on all the systems, and then another week I spent in the sim. So, hopefully that'll make this a little bit more interesting stream for those of you wanting to hear about that. Maybe you're interested in doing that yourself. I went through part of the school many years ago when the A320 was still sort of a novelty, and it had been a while, so I really enjoyed it. But hey, let's get going. We're Northwest 349 today, and we're heading from Minneapolis to San Francisco, so it'll give us plenty of time to talk about it, and also show off the awesome scenery that is available for. And this is literally my first flight since getting home. And I gotta tell you, that's what the airplane looks like. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Engine master's off. This is a norm. Radar, predictive wind shear's off. Geared lever is down. Wipers are off. Batteries, 25.5. That looks good. External power, we have, we'll turn on. We're not going to start the APU quite yet. However, we'll get it set up so we can start it. Want to make sure the radio is on a frequency so that we can get help if the APU catches fire or we have a problem. 26.7, we're on Batson today. So we'll tune in a live frequency, 26.7 here, 22.8. On the other side, and we'll leave up. I want to listen on both, but we'll be tuned in on one. Intercom's up. We're good to go. We'll run an APU fire test, even though we won't start it right away. Actually, we want to run it. APU screen comes up, master warning, CRC, and we got it on the engine warning display, the ECAM. Excellent. All right, now is when we let's double check everything, make sure we got what we need. Import from SimBrief. Here's our plan. We're running a little bit late, but no biggie. Let's take a look at what we got here. 18 November 304 Uniform Sierra. We're actually in airframe 305 since we don't have a livery for 304, but close enough. Leaving out of here 1955Z. And cost index of 12. We're going to flight level 360. I think we're fairly heavy, though. Takeoff weight, yeah, we're about 7,000 pounds below gross. We're going to end up with almost 28,000 pounds of fuel. Let's take a look at the weather. Minneapolis, 090 or 0 at 0 at 9, so we're landing and departing to the east. 9 gusts to 16. 2,500, 7,000, 1,000 looks good. 20, we're going to be getting there about 2,400 Z. So over 6 miles, clear skies. Weather's good in San Francisco. Our alternate, same thing, good weather.
Minneapolis, traffic number 1401, vacating 12 right, taxiing the Alpha to the gate.
And yeah, it doesn't even look like any significant weather. Jet stream's a little south of us. But typical headwinds, but nothing horrible. And we'll We'll be above the tropopause for a good chunk of the flight, so temperature will be a little warmer than standard. And otherwise, I think it looks good. So what we can do, go to mass and balance. We'll make it an even 28,000 pounds of fuel. Apply and load. GSX. We'll make sure it's working. And I heard something. All right. What's in it? Something odd is going on here. All right. I gotta reload Synapse Pro. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry, a little delay here. There we go. What was that all about? Got the right SPAD controls set up? Yeah, I do. There we go. Okay. Okay, init data request. We'll load the flight plan in, then we'll check our make sure we got the right aircraft. Oops, wrong one. Do menu, FMGC. Here we are. CFM 56 B4 A320 200, 26th of November. Looks good. Okay, we'll do our preliminary performance. We don't have any maintenance logs to check. No OEBs. MEL, CDL. We're in good shape. Let's get the company messages up, which will be our initial, our two initial load sheets. So no maintenance, no MELs, no OEBs, no nothing scary in the logbook. And next thing is to take a look at performance here. Oh, do a quick 1-2 left for the look at our charts here. Start airport. 1-2 left, 1-2 right. Seems appropriate, so we'll plan on 1-2 left. 1-2 left. Sync load sheet, sync live weather. We'll calculate it. 44, 44, 46. Flaps 1 down at 0. 52 degrees of flex. Looks reasonable. And so I think our performance will be just fine. I would have the first officer verify it. Look good. Looks good. Now he's going to go out and, or she is going to go out and do the checklist. Oxygen looks good. Hydraulics look good. Oil quantity is fine. Radar's off. Flaps are 0, indicating 0. Go do the pre-flight. Alright, while he's doing the pre-flight, we'll come up here. Off, ground control, CVR test. Come out of interphone, turn it down. We'd want both sides turned down all the way. CVR test. It should stop on its own, I do believe. Let's put to captain. On bat light, and there is an on bat light for each of them you're supposed to watch. There's the second one. Here comes the third. There's the third. Strobe comes down, nav lights come down, auto arm. Dome light we always had on in the sim, of course. That should be an auto. Put these at the 10 o'clock position. Should have 2 lights there. We do. How are we doing on fuel? We are being refueled. Squib discharge, fire lights, CRC, master warning. Engine fire ECAM, engine display page, and then the fire light down by the engine master switch. Same thing on this side. 4 lights, 5 lights, CRC, master warning, ECAM, engine page, fire light down there. Excellent. Nothing, we can turn the aft. And then the intercom over here. Or the PA, I mean. Okay, those are standby instruments are the way we want them. Let's bring the artificial horizon up. Gear handle down, parking brake is set, pressure's normal. Got the date, anti-skid nose wheel steering is on. Radars are set, the panel is set the way I want it. 26.7 is our CTAF, and 22.8 is up on 2. Off, off. Run that through the unlock. Now we can do a annunciator test. Should have 5 lights back here. We do. Plus all the other lights. Yeah, and then on bright. Coming down the center pedestal, norm, 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 norm. Those are set. Thrust levers are at idle. Off, norm. Centered. Braking brake is set. Gear extension lever is stowed. The right hand ACP is set. Got no floodlights on. And that will be our squawk code since we don't have... Oh, that's why I don't have one. I need to file it. Send to VATSIM. $349. Here we go. Okay, our squawk code out of Minneapolis to San Francisco today will be 1617. Oops. 1617. Alrighty, by now that we can do the box. So, data's good. In it, I should have filled this in before. K, M, S, P, K, S, F, O. There. Flight number N, W, A, 349. Goes in here. Our cost index is 21, right? Cost index is 12. 360? 360. Why we lost primary. 36 and 36 72 plus 4 degrees, so minus 52. Minus 52. We can load up the winds. That's interesting. All right. Minneapolis, departing. 12 left. Via the Shep 1. Roxanne. Insert. There's Roxanne. Tayu. Tayu. Lucky. CYS, Charlie, Yankee, Sierra, Charlie, Yankee, Sierra, J148, to OAL. Oh, just got an ACARS. Awesome. They're online. Well, hello. OAL is done. OAL to Inyo. YOE. Inyo. And Diamond 5. It's 28 reps. Arrival.
Diamond 5. ILS 28 right. Diamond 5. Inyo.
So let's look at that. ILS 28 right. Archie or Eddie? Archie.
Approach via Archie. There we go. Return. Insert.
Let's double check the route here. Go to plan. Zoom out a little bit. Minneapolis. Hugger. Shep.
Roxanne.
Tayu. Lucky.
Charlie Yankee Sierra.
J148. OAL. Inouye. Dimed. Lane. Always. We could have constraints on. CDs. Freely, Archie,
Zil. Zild. Gur. Dumba. Seepin.
Excellent. Axial to 28 right.
Alright. Second flight plan, we'll copy the active.
Radio nav out of Minneapolis. I believe we're going to want the Minneapolis VOR. Shep 1 says 1-2 left and right. Yep, MSP at or above 3,500.
So hard tune.
MSP.
Over here.
And DME 7 arc.
So what I could also do, go here to flight plan.
Control aircraft information, Quebec current for departure Minneapolis. Minneapolis, altimeter 3004.
Fix info. MSP. And I want the 7 DME.
And I need to be 3,500.
Alright. So RadNav, in at B page.
Okay, our zero fuel weight. 127 point,
What call it? 128.0.
slant.
31.5.
And our black fuel. 28,000 pounds. Performance. How are we doing on boarding, by the way? We haven't started boarding yet. Why not? We've been sitting here forever. We'll go ahead and start the APU now. I don't know why boarding's taking so long. So anyway, this is sort of a new pre-flight routine that we use in training. It is so, right, so I learned the specific airlines procedures originally many years ago. And the training I went through used the, there they are, used, was straight Airbus on pretty much everything. So what I'm following by memory right now is basically what is in Airbus FCOM. And Flight Crew Techniques manual. I don't have a newer checklist. I still have an old handheld checklist, but that has it's arranged a little bit differently. For instance, there's no climb checklist anymore. Or after takeoff / climb checklist. It's a flow. But we'll make do. We'll make it work. Make it work. All right, APU's on its way up. Says avail. We'll go ahead and get the bleed on. We can lose the external power, and they'll pull that when it's ready. We did do an initial performance 44, 44, 46.
144, 144, 146. The flaps of 1. And a flex temp of 52. See how chilly it is in Minneapolis today. Yeah, it's only 7 degrees. Alrighty. We got an ACARS. Let's see if there's any change in our ACARS. ACARS, Northwest 349, departure, MSP, Shep, Ryan, Teyu. Nope, that's our filed. 360. Squawk 1617. 1617. Remarks, cleared Shep 1 departure, Roxanne transition, climb via SID, except maintain 7,000 feet. Expect 360 and 10. So go to 7,000. Departure frequency will be Unicom, and expect runway 17. Oh, he put us on 17. All right. Well, let's change this to 17. Sync load sheet. Weather, calculate. 38, 39, 42. 138, 139, 142. 51 is the flex. And flaps 2. All right, so now we're a flaps 2 departure off of 17. 17 is a little, whoops, airport. Yeah, 8,000 foot runway, a little bit shorter. But that's good. That's all good. 26.7 for push, and we're finally loading. Welcome aboard. Hello. Hello, welcome aboard. All right, and then our progress page. We can put in, in case we need to come right back, we'll put in that optimum is 34, max is 368, so that looks good. And then it's also a good idea, set your pressurization, and the landing elevation is set for San Francisco. And then fuel is set. I would ask him to check, assuming he says it's all good. Ask the first officer to check it. Fuel is loaded and balanced. Now we do our center check and then our side check. So this is all set up. I like it set to VOR on both ARC 10 constraint. Altimeter. What was the altimeter setting? The altimeter setting 3004. .1018. And our field elevation 842. So what I want to do here, 842. We can leave engine acceleration at 1500, but I want 1842. 1840. 1840. Putting us 1,000 feet. Engine acceleration at 1500. Okay.
Good there. We did our center console. Now we'll come back up here, do the oxygen. Flight deck to ground. Go ahead. We're going to be doing the oxygen check. You might want to take off your headset. Here you really can't do it because you got to hold it, and then you got to press this button at the same time, which you can't do. So we'll say it works. Same thing on this side. Everything looks good here. I've got brightness. I've got no flags. This looks appropriate. Oh, you know what? I didn't change. That's not runway. Departure 17. Let's do the ship one. Let's insert. I did. Performance 38. 38, 139, 142, flex 2, flex 51. Okay. There we go. Alright, box is programmed. It's all checked up. We've gotten through this. Did you find anything? Nope. Do the departure briefing. We'll be departing today, runway 17 out of Minneapolis. We're here at Foxtrot 16, right? Yep. Or, yeah, Fox 16. We're here at Foxtrot 16. We'll push back. We'll probably push back tail left onto Delta, and we'll expect a Delta Alpha. I don't know how he's going to take it. Delta across Whiskey, and then Whiskey to Kilo 10. Yeah, that's probably it. No particular weather risks departing Minneapolis today.
397, look for clearance to SFO with Oscar.
Sun Country 397, Minneapolis Tower. Good afternoon. Quebec's going to be current. You're clear to San Francisco International via the Chef 1 departure, Roxanne transition, then as well. Columbia Civic 718 7000 departures offline.
Wait for them to stop talking. Anyway, we'll be departing runway 17.
Ship 1 departure, Roxanne transition 7000.
Runway 17. It's 8,000 feet long. Any fire, any malfunction, we'll abort for anything under 100 knots. Once we hit to 100 knots, if I think we need to abort, I'll call stop. And then anything, engine fire, failure, loss of direction or control, above, up to V1, we'll abort on the runway. I'll call stop. I'll bring out the reversers. I'll apply max braking. And then when we come to a stop, I'll set the parking brake. You can let ATC know we're stopping on the runway. We'll do the ECAM actions, then we'll decide on our next course of action if we need to evacuate or not. Otherwise, after V2, after V1, if there's a problem, we'll take it in the air. Positive rate, gear up. Don't touch anything until 400 feet. We'll do the ECAM actions. If it's an engine failure, we'll secure the engine and level off and or get to 1,500 feet, whichever comes first, and level off, accelerate, and then we'll continue with the ECAM actions and take the malfunction in the air and discuss whether or not we need to return. Any questions? No questions? All right, cockpit prep checklist, please. Cockpit prep completed. Gear pins and covers removed. Signs. Signs are on and auto. ADIRS. Our nav. Fuel quantity 28,000 pounds. Whoops. 27,960 pounds and balanced. Takeoff data set. Barrel ref QNH 3004. Left and center. 3004. All right. Now we'll just wait for the cabin to be ready to go. We've got a few more passengers to load, and then we should be ready. So yeah, once again, where I went to do this training, we did
I'll talk more about it once we're in the air when we get to cruise. But it was very interesting. It was interesting to see sort of how things have changed, and also brush up on a lot of stuff that I just don't do in the sim. A lot of right. Most of the sim is spent flying around on one engine. All sorts of malfunctions. It was good. Not to mention doing maneuvers in the airplane that I don't typically do in the sim, So once again, we'll talk about it when we get in the air here. In the meantime, we have got Quebec 090 10 miles, few clouds 3000. Temperature 7, dew point -1, 3004. Departing runway 12 left, 2 right, 17. All aircraft contact ATC when ready to push back or taxi. Caution birds near Minneapolis. Read back, hold short instructions and assign altitudes. All aircraft taxi with transponder and altitude encoding on. Advise you have information. Quebec. I'll do it. We'll let them know we got Quebec. Got about 18 more passengers to go. We can give him a call. Okay, why did the radio change? $26.7. V-Pilot. I don't know why. I have to sometimes restart it, do all sorts of weird stuff to get it to connect. Settings, push to talk, cancel, yes, connect. Settings, push to talk. There we go. Oy vey. Alright, let's check our new load sheet. She just told us we are ready to go. Zero fuel weight, 128.1. Slant, 31.5. Don't think that'll make any difference in our performance, but just in case. 38, 30 down, 42, 38, 39, 42, flaps 2 down, 1, 51 degrees. Nope, we're good to go. Okie doke. 26-7. Tower, good afternoon. Northwest 349, Foxtrot 16, ready to push with Quebec.
Northwest 349 Minneapolis Tower, good afternoon. Thanks for Quebec. Push and start on Delta approved.
Push and start on Delta approved. We'll go tail left.
Minneapolis Tower, Sun Country 397, ready to taxi for 17.
Sun Country 397, runway 17, taxi via Delta Sierra Kilo, cross runway 4.
Delta Sierra Kilo, cross runway 4, Sun Country 397.
All right, nose wheel pin is in. Whoop. Oh, I messed up. It's beacon on. Hopefully this doesn't mess up GSX. Change direction. Oh, see, it did. Dang it. I forgot about that. It's been a while since I've been in the home sim. Idle. Parking brake is set. Pressure's normal. There we go. Continue pushback. Tail left.
Release parking brakes, please.
Brakes release. Pressure is normal.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Here we go. Goes to start. Wait for the FADEC to power up. Turning one. Forgot to do the before start checklist, which is windows and doors are closed, beacons on, thrust levers idle, parking brake is set. Before start checklist complete.
Tower, this is Delta 1862, requesting IFR clearance to Indiana.
Delta 1862 Minneapolis.
Fail.
Tower, good
Starting
afternoon.
two.
You are clear to Indianapolis International via Zoom Grove 7 departure. No 9 transition. Then is filed. Climb via Citic set maintain 7000. Departures offline. Clock 7010.
Clear to Indianapolis Airport with a Zimbro 07 departure 40 transition. Maintain 7000 expect.
Brake set, parachute's normal.
7010. We do have Quebec on board. Delta 860.
Delta 1862 read back is correct. Expect runway 17. If you're pushing into the alley, that's at your discretion. If you want to push onto Delta, call for push.
Delta 1862.
All right, we have two good starts. You're clear to disconnect.
Sun Country 397, fly runway heading wind 090 at 8, runway 17, clear for takeoff.
Runway heading 17, clear for takeoff, Sun Country 397.
There goes the tug.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Where's my guy? Where'd he go? There he is. Except I can't see him. I'm gonna assume I got the signal. Start checklist. Anti-ice is off. ECAM status is checked. Pitch trim is set. Rudder trim 0. Tower Northwest 349, taxi.
Northwest 349, runway 17, taxi via Delta, hold short 12 right.
Via Delta, hold short 12 right for Northwest 349.
Sun Country
Clear
397,
left, clear
right turn
right.
heading 215.
Right 215, Sun Country 397.
Here we go.
Sun Country 397, radar service is unavailable, 122.8, have a great flight.
22 AC, led to Sun Country 397.
So he's going to take us down Delta, cross 12 right to Whiskey, I'll bet you. Control check. Down. Full up. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudders. Full left. Full right. Neutral. The first officer would do it. It's waiting on the cabin. All right, 12 right. Hold short of 12 right, the man said.
Northwest 349, clear to cross 12 right, continue taxi via Whiskey, cross runway 4.
Cross 12 right on Delta, then Whiskey, cross runway 24 for Northwest 349. Yep, Delta, we cross. We'll hustle across the runway here. Excuse me. Right turn on Whiskey, cross 24. I miss looking around. You realize when you've been in the real airplane how useful looking around is. I should get my Toby eye tracker. Or cross 22. I said 24. I meant 22. We'll cross, we'll get out of here, and then we'll do our before takeoff checklists. All right. Taxi before takeoff check. Flight controls checked. Checked. Flight instruments checked. Briefings, no change. Flap setting config 2.
V1, VR, V2, 38, 39, 42 with a flex of 51. Check. ATC is set. ECAM memo takeoff. No blue. Cabin's ready. I believe this is Flight Beams Minneapolis. Really good scenery. It looks a lot like Minneapolis. It's about the best thing you can say about a scenery. Kind of a chilly fall day here in the upper Midwest. These are the de-ice pads. And it is that time of year where you got to start thinking about cold weather ops. Plenty of de-icing up here in Minneapolis.
Tower Delta 1862 ready to taxi.
Delta 1862, runway 17, taxi via Delta, hold short, runway 12 right.
Taxi via Delta.
Departure is to be above 3,500 feet by the time I cross that 7 DME arc, which is drawn on the nav display. Tower Northwest 349 will be ready at the end.
Northwest 349, roger. Northwest 349, flight runway heading, wind 090 at 8, runway 17, clear for takeoff.
Runway heading, cleared for takeoff, Northwest 349. All right, cleared for takeoff. Strobes, wing lights. Don't see any traffic. TCAS goes to TARA. Bleeds are staying off.
Minneapolis Tower,
I see.
Delta 2963.
Runway 17.
63, Minneapolis Tower.
Minneapolis Tower, Delta 2963, Gate Charlie 2, information Quebec, ready to push.
Oh, I got no brakes.
63, thanks for Quebec, push to start on to Quebec approved.
Push on to Quebec approved, Delta 2963.
Well, that's interesting. All right.
Airbus Tower, good day, Endeavour 5085, information Quebec, Airmark, to Toronto.
Endeavour 5085, Minneapolis Tower, good afternoon. You're cleared to Toronto Pearson International via Wolfstone 7, departure Green Bay transition.
Manflex, SRS runway, auto thrust is blue.
7000, departure is offline, squawk 3321.
Power is set.
Clear to the Wilson 7 departure, Green Bay transition, maintaining 7000, departure offline, squawk 3321, Endeavour 5085.
100 knots, check.
Endeavour 5085, greenback is correct. Expect runway 12 left, call for push.
Calling for push, expecting 1 to left, Endeavour 5085.
V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Take it to 15 degrees, and then follow the bar for the SRS. There's runway heading. Nav.
Northwest 349, right turn, heading 215.
Right to 215, Northwest 349.
Delta 1862, clear to cross runway 12 right, continue via Whiskey, cross runway 4.
Clear to cross runway 12 right, then to Whiskey, then cross runway 4. Delta 1862.
Northwest 349, radar service is unavailable, 122.8, have a good flight.
Off to Unicom, we got Northwest 349. Have a good day. Flaps 1. Flaps 0. AP1. Direct. Insert. Alright, direct to Huger we go. Nav. With the flaps up. Speed brakes. Turn off the taxiway lights. Off. And we're off like a herd of turtles. Might have some clouds here. I'm going to bring the engine anti-ice down just in case. All right, nice healthy climb. Speed, Alt Star. Oh, that's because of that. Let's go to 36,000 feet. Thrust climb, open climb. Piece of cake. All right, we're above the clouds. We can come out of engine anti-ice. Interesting we don't get the fault lights when the valve's in transition.
Delta 1862, fly heading 150, wind 090 at runway
10,000 feet.
Takeoff.
Fly heading 150, fast takeoff, Delta 18.
Lights off. And seatbelt sign off.
Minneapolis Tower, Delta 2963, push to off of Charlie 2 on Quebec, ready to taxi.
Clear the radio
Delta
nav.
2963, runway 12 left, taxi via Papa, crash runway 4.
12 left, Papa, cross 4, Delta 2963.
Copy the active. We go to make sure we can climb to 36, which we can.
Endeavor 5085, push start on the Quebec, approved.
I'm going to go on airport over here. You can stay on constraints over there. And we don't need terrain anymore. Okay, we're starting our climb up 360. Love this sim. Love this sim. Really enjoy Phoenix. I never closed the door, did I? I don't know where my seated passengers are. Anyway. Yeah, so I suppose we can start talking about it during the climb here. On our way up to 360. Since we don't have any center on.
Radar services unavailable, 122.8, have a good flight.
Let's get the radio set. Actually, I can just do it right here. 121 5. Okay, here we go. Off to 360 on the departure, the Shep departure. Probably should have that plate up. Shep, Roxanne, and off we go. So yeah, so I went to a flight school, a place that does training in the Airbus. Went to a school in Miami. I won't necessarily mention the name, but there are several of them in Miami. It was not. I'll tell you, it was not the one you're probably thinking of. I don't even know if they're in Miami, but they have a location in Dallas. Kind of one of the famous schools for doing A320 type ratings and work and stuff. 2992. $18.3 now. Okay. We are good to go. So, it was a 2-week-long class, and the first 4 days concentrated on, well, first thing they did was they sent you a lot of study materials ahead of time. The curriculum I did really was meant for somebody getting a type rating, because it's been so long since I've been in the airplane. I know I've developed bad habits. I know I've forgotten stuff. I know I haven't thought about, the airplane in that way in a really long time. Whoops. So, yeah, this was a school that has quite a few simulators. They have 777. I believe they have access to a 747 sim if they don't have one on site. A330 sim. So it's a good sized training organization. And the first 4 days I spent. There were only a couple other people in the class. And the first 4 days I spent in ground school, right? So they sent a whole bunch of study material in advance, including CBTs and some handouts. So I had to pass an assessment through the CBT before showing up for class. And that was a lot like, not unlike all the different CBTs you can find, frankly, you can find on YouTube. People have recorded, done screen grabs of CBTs, and it was very much like those. So if you find a recent version of those for the Airbus, you can rest assured that you're getting real information. So did that, and then had 4 days of ground school. Now, they combined, the ground school days were also combined with systems integration training. Now, at some schools, system integration training is done in a flight training device. So, I guess theoretically that could be anything from the paper tiger, right, the mock-up of the cockpit of the airplane, where you just, sort of touch where the buttons would be. And then there are some FTDs that are complete cockpits, right? They may even have visuals, kind of like an ultimate home simulator setup. And then other schools do it where you go into the full motion sim, but you may not use the motion, right? Because the rate on going full motion in the sim is obviously higher than if you don't. So there were 4 lessons of ground coupled with 4 lessons of SIT, the systems integration training. So we would do 4 hours of ground, and then each of us had a 2-hour session in the left seat of the SIT, and then one person would sit in the right seat and be a first officer. And during SIT, it's really your chance to see the systems in action that you've been studying in ground school and on the CBT. And it's the time you spend reinforcing flows. You do fly, quote unquote. However, it's also sort of taxi training if you've never done that before and things like that. So, but it's mainly used to put the knowledge that you've gotten from the CBTs and in your ground school, the discussions that day, into practice in the airplane. So you learn the profiles, you learn the flows, and again, you want to be learning flows when you're not, paying for full motion sim, right? Because once you get to the full motion, once you get to the sim, right, you want to be able to focus on flying the airplane, not learning, where is that button, where is this button, right? Once you're in the sim, you really the motion sim, you want to have your flows memorized, and in a lot of programs, right, they'll have you'll have a flows test, a skills check before you go into the sim. Make sure you know your flows cold. In my class, I was the only one that had airline experience. One guy's was from Australia, and another guy was from the U.S., but he was a fairly experienced pilot, but was thinking about moving to a career in aviation, and he wanted to get his. He was working on his ATP as well as getting a type rating in the Airbus. So, learning the flows and the call-outs, and that whole litany, it was challenging for the guys that didn't have 121 experience, especially the gentleman who was an experienced general aviation pilot, right? He'd flown some pretty high performance airplanes in the general aviation world, and one of his biggest challenges was learning flows and understanding the flow, and then a true checklist environment versus a do list. If you've flown general aviation, you're probably used to do lists, where you go down the list, and then as you read the checklist, you push the button, flip the switch, check the status of the system. Whereas most of the time in the airline world, you do a flow and then it's followed with a checklist, right? If you watch me on my taxi out, although I forgot the before start checklist, I did a before start flow and then I did the checklist. We did the cockpit prep and then we did the cockpit prep checklist. We did the taxi flow and then we did a taxi checklist, right? And the checklist picks up the things that you might have missed in the flow. I mean, that's the purpose of it. As opposed to a list that you go down and you do it as you go. It's a lot more efficient to do it via flow, just because you have it memorized. And then just run through the checklist. Because the Airbus checklists are pretty short. The Airbus checklists in particular are very, very short, and they're really just the things that are, that'll hurt you. That is a good looking livery, especially above the white clouds, isn't it? I do like the bowling shoe. I like the thermometer livery better, but don't say that too loud, because an awful lot of people love this bowling shoe livery. As do I. Anyway, so we spend those 4 days. The first day in ground was sort of a overhead panel review. Total overhead panel review. What does each button do? What does it tell you, right? When you get the warning on the wing light, what does it mean? Wing anti-ice light. If when you get the fall light on the wing anti-ice push button, what does it mean? Things like that. That was the first day, and then the first day in the flight training device for day 1 of SIT was just all your basic flows. And flows are different, right? For captain or first officer or CM1, I should say CM1, who's the person in the left seat, CM2 is in the right, and then at some point you switch and you become pilot flying and pilot not flying. Now we were doing all of the flying from the left seat, so CM1 was always also pilot flying. And you learn real quick that when you're the one flying, you don't have a lot of flows. Pilot flying flows are easy. The taxi flow, before taxi flow for the, well, that's for CM1, for example, is terrain on ND, as required. That's it. The after takeoff flow for the pilot flying is nothing. But for the person in the other seat, you got your lights, you make sure your bleed's off, you make sure your anti-ice is the way you want it. Gear up. That's it. Oh, engine mode. Engine mode norm. Or as you need it. Right? So, the heavy lifting as far as flows go typically go to the pilot not flying. And it makes sense, right? Because if you're the one flying, you're focused on flying the airplane. Also the call-outs. So you'll notice, or you may not notice, but if you've seen my previous videos, where I grew up, we did an 80 knot call. There is no 80 knot call in Airbus speak in the 320. It is 100 knots. It was funny because our ground school instructor, who was a long time Airbus guy, like everything from the 310 all the way up to the 330 he flew. He actually started on the 707, which is really cool. But in Airbus speak, he started in the Airbus 310, flew the A300, 600, and then the A330. He still believes that 80 knots is sort of the mark from low speed to high speed regime as far as the aborts go. And maybe I'll do a video in the future, sort of a finer points on takeoff aborts and the different speeds, because it really isn't as simple as V1, VR, and V2, or V1, because VR is when you're taken to the air. Right, aborting at 120 knots. So let's say our V1, like today, our V1 was what, 135 or something? An abort at 110 knots is a lot more dangerous than an abort at 80 knots or 70 knots. So you've actually got 3 different mindsets. You've got low speed abort, high speed abort, and then V1. And as a matter of fact, well, I'll mention it if I ever do one, but when you're in that high speed, when you're in that high speed abort regime, it's especially important because you don't know you need to understand what kind of malfunction you've had and whether you really should stop or not. You blow a tire at 100 knots when your V1 is like 115 or 120. It might be better to take the plane in the air than to try to stop, because you're going to have a lot less braking power available to you, right? You're missing a tire. You're missing 25% of your braking ability. So, low speed abort, high speed abort, V1. So, that's why it's very important to understand your callouts, because the callouts are typically timed as a cue as to what kind of regime you're in. And there's the obvious one, which is V1. As soon as you say V1, you're not stopping on the runway. You are going. That is go. V1 is not the decision speed, which is what a lot of people call it. V1 is the decided speed. You're not making a decision. You hear V1, you're going, I'll cruise. You're decided.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
But a lot of some airlines procedurally, let me put it this way, it's not uncommon to consider the division between low and high speed aborts is 80 knots. So 100 knots is a good call out. As far as everybody's got reliable airspeed, we're good. But 80 knots is a good time to do around which to do your power set. And I believe in the Airbus manual it says you have to say, or thrust set, you have to say thrust set by 80 knots. So saying it right about 80 knots, or as you're reaching 80 knots, so you start saying thrust set at like 75, is then telling the pilot flying that you are getting into the high-speed regime and it's time to think about, maybe not aborting unless it's something serious. So that's why in my brief I said we'll abort for pretty much anything below 80 knots. Above 80 knots to V1, we'll abort for engine fire, engine failure, loss of directional control, or wind shear. I didn't say that. Or wind shear. Other than that, you're go-minded, even though you're below V1. So, learning the litany, right, which are the callouts, learning the flows are what the first session, or maybe two sessions, were in the systems integration training. And then we refined our knowledge. Sessions 3 and 4 were more on kind of a little deeper into the systems, focusing more on what oral questions you could have, and also learning the profiles, right? When to the takeoff, the different takeoff profiles, the different instrument approach profiles, FMS work, things like that. On the last day of ground, we took a written exam on systems. We had to get an 80% or higher. It was open book, which kind of disappointed me. So I did it as a closed book. Oh, there's the company telling us we're late. I'll bet you. I'll bet you. Yep, 22 minutes. Oh well, life goes on. You know what I didn't check? Maintenance, failures. Oh, I don't have any failures. I want config, random failures, all realistic. Okay. So it was an open book test. I did a closed book because I wanted to make sure I knew. I got a couple questions wrong.
The other guys, the other folks in the class did do it as open book. They scored higher than me, but it didn't really matter. We went through all the questions that people got wrong, and again, you just want to make sure you're keeping up with your systems training. And then what we did as a group is we met an hour or two before class each day to kind of study things. Right? We a lot of that time we would take the cockpit posters down from the walls and arrange them as though it's the flight deck. Right? We'd put the instrument panel below the overhead and then lay the pedestal panel down on a long table, so it sort of looked like the flight deck. And we would practice flows with each other. Did a lot of that. They also gave us the posters to borrow, so I could take them to my hotel room at night, and I put them up on my hotel room. I had the overhead and the panel, and then I took the ottoman it was in front of the couch, and I used that as a pedestal, center pedestal, to brush up on my flows. Because again, the flows I learned were way different than, very, very different from the Airbus flows. Give you, for example, I was used to disarming the speed brake when the gear came up. So gear up, speed brake's attached to the gear. Gear up, disarm the speed brake on takeoff, then on landing, gear down, arm the speed brake. Well, you still arm the speed brake on the descent when you put the gear down. That's fine. But the reasoning why Airbus changed that, because that's how it used to be. That's how they originally invented the flow. But they changed it because most pilots have a tendency to come down to the speed brake lever, right, when it's armed, and they sort of, with their fist, almost like a gavel, like a judge's gavel, and you sort of pound it down. I don't know if you can hear that. But the problem is this handle in the Airbus, to activate, to be able to pull back, to deploy ground spoilers, speed brakes, you have to push down on it. Now look at the way it's angled. So if you're sitting here, this seat would be, right, would be back there. A little bit, maybe. Never really played with the seat controls. Anyway. Right, so you're sitting here. I wonder if there's a... Nah, you probably can't adjust it. By the way, I was reacquainted with the armrest. I am an E5. So let's say I'm in the left seat and I'm flying, right? So I call for gear up. The person in the right seat brings the gear up, and then with their hand, they swing down this way and punch this speed brake lever from armed to down. Well, it's very easy in that motion to keep pushing and then deploy the speed brakes. Now think about where you're at 50 feet when you bring the gear up, somewhere around there, right? Because it's positive climb, gear up. You might only be at 50 feet or less. You want your speed brakes deployed at 50 feet? I don't. So, the new flow is you don't touch that until your acceleration flow. And the acceleration flow is when you go to flap 0. So flap 0, speed checks, flap 0, disarm, then you do the nose lights, the taxi light comes off, or takeoff light, technically. Takeoff light comes off and the runway turn-off lights come off, even though they're already off because the nose gear is retracted into the bay. By the way, the other odd thing about our sim is that these buttons were all configured the other way. So off was up, on was forward, kind of like Boeing. On this lighting panel, off was up, and then the on positions were down. Anyway, so that's an example of how the flows I grew up with in this airplane and knew from
25 years ago. Yeah, coming up on 25 years, 24 years ago. Aren't used anymore. Same thing with the checklists. I had the older checklists, or I was used to seeing them with the to the line. These are the newer checklists. Oh, so they do have a full QRH here. That's pretty cool. I wonder if it's got OEBs. It's got the system reset tables, which is kind of nice. No OEBs. OEBs are usually back here. So OEBs are operational engineering bulletins, and they're they're almost like supplementary procedures in that they're problems that need to be addressed formally but have not yet been addressed. I'm trying to think of the OEB that we had in our example, the QRH we had for training, which was a sort of an abbreviated QRH with specific things in it, just so you could do it. But we had an OEB, right, that came into play in one of the sim sessions. So they weren't current OEBs. Oh, hang on. I might have an OEB. Hold on. I've got an old America West QRH. Oh, there's an OEB section. Oh, there is an OEB. I wish I could show you this. So this OEB is titled Engine 1 or 2 Oil Filter Clog. And the purpose of this OEB is to minimize the risk of contaminating the air conditioning system by oil fumes while still continuing normal engine operation. Systemically apply the following procedure in any case where the engine 1 or 2 oil filter clog ECAM caution occurs in flight. So, during pre-flight, just after the captain has done their aircraft acceptance, right? But before the, let me think about it. Well, anyway, so during pre-flight, the crew will go through the OEBs. So this OEB, if we say specifically, we read the entire OEB, and engine 1 or 2 oil filter clog ECAM. So if we're flying along and we get the oil filter clog ECAM, bing, and you get it, before you proceed with the ECAM procedures, start ECAM. I should say after you complete the ECAM, which I'm guessing there isn't much of an ECAM here on this one, but this one says anytime this appears in flight, we have to apply this OEB. And the OEB in this case, if that were to appear, would be engine bleed on the affected side off. So you come up here, if it was engine 1, and you turn off the engine 1 bleed. Pack on the affected side off. So then you would turn off the pack on that side. So engine bleed off, that prevents possible bleed contamination by the engine oil. Pack on the affected side off. Switching off one pack enables the remaining pack to operate at 120% without any risk of misbehavior on the remaining bleed. Keep the pack on the effective side in case of an MEL dispatch with the other pack inoperative. All right. So again, there's a yes but in here. So if you've dispatched with this pack in op, then obviously you would not turn off this pack. The pack that has been switched off remains available with the crossfeed valve open, therefore switch it on in case of subsequent independent malfunction affecting the operating pack. So, engine bleed off, engine pack on the affected side off, unless that's your only pack. You then take the crossbleed and turn it to open. Crossbleed open. Opening the crossbleed valve enables the wing anti-ice to be used when needed. Right? So this goes to open so that you have wing anti-ice available on both sides. And then it says, closely monitor engine parameters for surge, stall, oil pressure variations, abnormal engine vibrations, and when necessary, apply the associated procedure. If after the oil filter clog indication the engine experiences or has already experienced a surge, stall, inaudible surge detected, undetected by the ECAM, possibly accompanied by a yaw effect on the aircraft, engine thrust lever on the affected side bring to idle. Reducing the thrust on the effective engine minimizes further damage to the engine's rotary machinery, but will not necessarily prevent more oil from entering the gas path. Maintain engine at idle. Consider engine shutdown when high vibration occurs or oil quantity pressure drops low. So there you go. That's an OEB. So it's a supplementary procedure that has been put out by the manufacturer, by Airbus, in case you experienced the affected problem, right? So there must have been some cases where that engine clog came on, and then there was a fume event in the cabin. So while they figure out exactly why it happens, they figure out a workaround. That's all an OEB is. So there you go, OEB lessons. So anyway, we covered all those procedures in the systems integration training. And by the way, that's when it helps to know the systems, right? I'm sure that's the nice thing about flight simming is, in a plane like the Phoenix, you can go as deep as you want because this plane is fairly deep systems-wise. And coming up on Lucky intersection. And with it being now top of the hour, we'll do a check at Lucky. We've got about 4 minutes to go to Lucky. Our flight plan says at Lucky. I forgot to start the timer. Dang it. At Lucky, we should have 21,400 pounds of fuel. So 21.4, about 1,000 pounds less than what we have. We'll see where we're at. So that's what we did during SIT training. Integrating what we've learned about the systems into the cockpit actions, learning flows, learning memory items, which there aren't too many on the Airbus, and learning some of the profiles. So we would take off, we'd fly around, no motion, and then we typically land. The instructor did not want us landing the airplane with no motion because he said it's very difficult and not particularly useful. But one day in the sim, the FMS started acting up and was not following localizers. Because, by the way, their sims can suffer the same weird bugs and same behavior occasionally, just like our sim at home does. So that's why they all have sim techs on duty 24/7. And when that started happening, I clicked out of automation, even though we weren't in full motion, and I hand flew the rest of the ILS to a landing. But typically they had us just flying in autopilot. You would rotate, autopilot on. And on takeoff, you can't engage the autopilot till 100 feet anyway. And you want to give the airplane a chance to kind of blend from ground mode in normal law to flight mode. Right? Because in ground mode, you're in your side stick is in a direct law. Meaning if you move the stick 50% to its limit, the ailerons will deflect 50%. Move the elevator 25%, and the elevator surface will move 25%. That's what direct law is. Anyway, autopilot on, do the maneuvers, learn how to program the box, learn what systems do what. Just sort of see everything in action, right? It's a lot easier to learn if you have a practical application to what you're learning. So that's what SIT was for. Then we got into the sims, and there were 5 sim sessions, and then the practical exam. So you really had 4 sim sessions, and then sort of a loft, and then the check. And the sim sessions, the first sim session was the only fun one you had, because that was, I don't think we had any malfunctions. Oh, there's lucky. 21.4 is our fuel. We're about 700 pounds heavy, so that's good. We'll check again at the bottom of the hour. So the first one was, takeoff. Then we went up, did the flight maneuvers, right? The standard flight maneuvers you do on any proficiency check or check ride, which consists of steep turns. And then you do three different types of stalls. You do a clean stall, did a flaps 2 stall in a turn. It's not unlike general aviation stall training, right? The clean configuration stall. The flaps 2 stall, that was with gear up and in a turn. So it's sort of similar to like you're turning to base leg or in the base leg turn, because it's when you can go to flaps 2 in the Airbus.
Although you're not descending, you're holding altitude.
And then the third one is flaps 3 with the gear down. Well, I thought, but CJ, you're thinking, you can't stall the Airbus. Well, first of all, any airplane is stallable, but you're right. The Airbus has many protections built into it to prevent you from stalling when you're in normal law. So when you do the stall series, you have to put the airplane into alternate law, and therefore those stall protections, most of them, you still have a stall warning, and you have sort of a VLS, and then you have VSW, the stall warning, which the stall warning is still above the actual stall. But anyway, I won't get too much into that. Maybe that would be a good video too, to show the stall series and how to recover from the stalls in those different configurations, because they're very different recovery techniques, and it's kind of interesting, right? So in the clean wing stall, there's a time where you might have your pilot monitoring deploy flaps 1, which is just slats when you're in the air, deploy config 1 during the recovery to get that extra lift onto the wings so you don't secondary stall. Anyway, so you do steep turns, you do the stall series, then we came back, shot a normal ILS to a normal landing, and then that was a touch and go, and then we just did visual circuits. So take off, just shy of pattern altitude, turn on your crosswind leg, level off, go to downwind, go to flap 0. I'm still really tired from all of it. Flap 0, when you're abeam the numbers, start a timer, 45 seconds, plus or minus, depending on if you have a headwind or tailwind on downwind. on base, you go to flaps 2, config 2, gear down. You could go to flaps 3 depending on your altitude and how you feel. Otherwise, turn final, go to flaps 3, and then your final config on final. You know, the idea being you're rolling out on the VASI, on the PAPI. But doing it all visually. Do those as touch and goes. And oh, we also did unusual attitudes, UPRT training, before we came back to the pattern. I forgot about that. So you do steep turns, stalls, UPRT, then you come back and do your series of landings, normal landings. The second sim, more ILS approaches, engine failure at cruise with a relight. I'm kind of out of order. We did steep turns again. We did so normal departure. She may have introduced us to a little more complex departure on that one, I think. But then we did steep turns again. I don't think we did stalls again, the second one. And then come back for ILSs. Oh, we did the engine failure in a cruise configuration with a restart. So again, following the ECAM, no damage, attempt the relight, make sure you're in the relight envelope, so on. And then came back to ILS to a mist, so did a go around, and then full landing. Then I think we taxied back and did another one, ILS. So that introduced the engine failure. That introduces the go around and the calls. Go around flaps. Flaps come up one notch. The pilot monitoring then lets the pilot flying know what the new config is, because if your flaps full, you're going to be in flaps 3. If you're landing in flaps 3 at the go around, you go to flaps 2. That was 2. 3 started getting spicy. Sim 3 was the introduction of non-precision approaches. Oh, do we have a few bumps here? Oops. Maybe a little bit of bumpage. I guess is temporary. Oh, no, there's a little out there. So we started doing non-precision approaches. So we did localizer approaches. Not only did we do localizer approaches, but we did localizer to circling approaches, which I thought was really cool that we were able to do those in the sim, because then if you got your type rating, you wouldn't have the circling restriction. So that's pretty slick. A lot of places, if you go to get your type rating, you'll have a restriction to, circling approaches not approved. Now, that being said, there's an awful lot of carriers, I believe, anymore that don't allow circling approaches anyway, so it's sort of a dubious honor, but it's fun to do. We happen to be doing them at JFK, so we were doing the ILS or the localizer to 4 with a circle to land of the 3-1 right. So 4 right to 3-1 right, I believe. So you're doing these, 800 feet above the ground, turn around, right over the Queens or wherever JFK is located. I think it's Queens. Isn't it Queens? Tell me in the comments below. So that was fun. And then we got our first V1 cuts on that lesson. So engine failures on takeoff. Round to an engine out ILS, all by hand. They approach. You can go to autopilot as soon as possible after the V1 cut. But that's where I got reacquainted, and I don't remember doing it the way Airbus wants you doing it now. I don't remember all the stop ECAM in the middle. I just remember positive rate gear up. You don't touch anything until 400 feet. Then they start the ECAM. And I don't remember the level off. Secure engine, stop ECAM, level off. I remember but I could be wrong. It could be the way they've always done it. Just don't remember. So we got our first V1 cuts, and then around back to the single engine ILS. And then we did a couple more visual landings. Oh, and crosswind landings. They threw some crosswinds in. Easy. And now, we didn't have 30, 40 knot crosswinds. But, flying the actual sim, the level D approved, flies like the airplane sim, and I would imagine flying the airplane is much easier in crosswind than on this sim. In fact, there's a lot of things. The real airplane is very forgiving and much easier in a lot of situations that I find difficult in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it's not just because of physics or, it's not Microsoft versus X-Plane. But if any of you watched V1's interview with Robert Randazzo a week ago or so, which if you didn't, I highly recommend it. Go to V1's channel and look for his interview with Robert Randazzo from PMDG. They talk about just that. They talk about situations where you'll crash in the sim, which is kind of jarring if you're a real pilot. But it's just, some things are very difficult when you can't feel the airplane moving around, or the sim responds a certain way. We all know these sims have a lot of trickiness. There's a lot of trickiness involved in modeling ground physics and friction coefficients and stuff like that. So anyway, it was nice to hear them talking about something I've been saying to people for years when it comes to flying the sim. Right there, you see these kids fly, or look at some of my videos, right? Especially when it comes to maintaining directional control on the center line. The Mad Dog, for example. I love the Mad Dog. This plane too sometimes. But its behavior in a crosswind on the ground is much more difficult, infinitely more difficult in the sim than it is in real life. It gets really squirrely, and you can have full control inputs in, and you're still sliding sideways in the crosswind. I couldn't tell you the last time I went rudder to the stops in a real airplane. Even V2 cuts. In the sim this last week, I wasn't going full rudder deflection. Anyway, so we did crosswind landings, and then so that's sim 3. And by the time you got to sim 3, you had seen everything in the syllabus. Everything you're going to do on the final check, you've now seen. So the next 2 sessions, we're just putting them all together in sequence, right? Because that check ride is a couple hours long, and you do everything in a sequence, and that makes it easier for the examiner. They can touch everything that the FAA wants to be touched, right? And be as expeditious as possible. So with the exception of the loft, the line-oriented flight training, which is a short flight, like, from New York to Boston, and then something happens after takeoff, and you have to decide whether to continue to Boston or divert, or to go back to JFK. We always joked in the sim during the takeoff briefing, one of the risks is, we're probably not going to make it to Boston because this plane keeps breaking. So the risk is that we're flying this plane that every day we fly it, something goes wrong. So that was always a tongue-in-cheek portion of our briefing. So it was interesting, and it was a lot of fun to do things in the sim that I haven't done in so many years. And I did pretty well. These airplanes are so safe when things go wrong. Engine failures during takeoff, right? The most critical phase of flight for an engine failure. I would venture to say anybody with a modicum who's familiar with flying airplanes and has done multi-engine work and has a little bit of time in the jet, or at least in the sim, can handle V1 cuts in these airplanes. And they climb away, even if you're at V2 or V2 plus, somewhere between V2 and V2 plus 10, right, which is what the airplane will keep you at after an engine failure, depending on what speed you were at when you lost the engine. It's even at that low speed, it's climbing away at 1,500 feet a minute at heavy weights. And that performance, once you get to 1,500 feet, or your acceleration altitude, your engine acceleration altitude, once you get to that, you level off. Come over here and level off. Push to level off. Let the airplane accelerate. Then when you get to green dot, you resume your climb. You go into open climb. Right, green dot. And it climbs away even better, because now you're at an airspeed where there's more lift being generated than drag. So yeah, it's and then once you're going, it's very easy to fly. The trickiest thing for me, single engine work, was the single engine go arounds. So we hand flew the single engine approaches to the go around, although I believe most examiners will allow you to have the autopilot on for those. Again, it depends on the examiner. But you have to do a single engine go around at some point, and that's the trickiest part, because like any airplane, and I don't know if it was the way the controls are configured, the way you don't get any feedback on the controls, right, because of the fly-by-wire. But there's zero feedback on the stick in this airplane, and I'm sure most of you already know that. That if I wasn't super aggressive with the rudder and bring the rudder in as the power increased, because again, you're descending, and power's back on the ILS. It takes a second for them to come to speed once toga power is selected, and that it accelerates slow, and then the acceleration picks up, and you gotta be ready on that rudder. And if you weren't, and I wasn't a few times, you get into this rolling, and you can always tell when you're not on the rudder fast enough, because the plane will start rolling a little bit on you. Now, it never got out of control, it never got dangerous, but it certainly wasn't polished. So I'll write down a few topics, and maybe I can do a deeper dive, a finer points, and maybe we'll transfer it over to a more classic airplane, even though I still contend that the Airbus A320 qualifies as classic. I wish I had the CRT mod, because that would make it feel even more classic. But so yeah, there you go. That's a lot of talking. I spent probably the last hour telling you about the sim and some of the things that are sticking in my mind here, having just completed it. So anyway, I hope that shed some light. If you have any specific questions for me about sim work, feel free to reach out, comment. I believe my email address is on the channel page, so shoot me an email, and I'm happy to go into more detail with anybody who's interested. And like I said, I may do a finer point on some aspect of stuff that I learned in the sim, because I'm going to make it a point to use Microsoft Sim to practice those procedures, because even though Microsoft will tell you, and I don't blame them for telling you, that it's not to be used for real-world flying or training, even though I hadn't been in the airplane or the sim in 24 years, the fact that I had been flying the Phoenix helped me tremendously in knowing exactly where everything is. So I believe there is some value in that. Anyhow, that's it for now. I'll let you get back to. We'll let it get back to the top of descent as quickly as possible. No sense in sitting here yapping away for the next 900 miles, 2350. So about 2 hours and 20 minutes to my top of descent, and then we'll have hopefully a beautiful approach, because it'll be. Yeah. We should have a nice approach, afternoon approach into San Francisco. Really looking forward to it. So we will see you in just a couple of minutes, which is actually a couple hours. All right, this is CJ. Be back with you in a second. Welcome back. Here we are. We are on the arrival to San Francisco on the Diamond 5 arrival, and we briefed the approach. ILS 28 right, and it goes something like this. San Francisco ILS 28 right, chart 11-3, 13 May 22.
San Francisco traffic, American 1996, short final 28 right, San Francisco.
Localizer frequency 111.7, final approach course 284 degrees. We will cross Axmal at approximately 1,800 feet, and the decision height is 213 feet. That is 200 feet above the ground. The touchdown zone elevation is 13 feet. If we need to go miss, it'll be climbed to 3,000 on the San Francisco VOR radial 2812 VICU, which is the 12 DME, and hold. So it's a straight out and hold. Miss approach requires a minimum climb of 350 per nautical mile to 1,900 feet. If unable, we follow the ILS 28 left, and that should not be a problem to meet. Looking for Pape on the left side, and sequential flashing lights on the way in. Missed approach altitude, it's 3,000 feet. Any questions? No questions. Then we do the top hat. Alright, flight plan, make sure it's all configured. RadNav, if you need anything. In my case, I hard tuned the SFO VOR because we need that at 281 degree radial in case we lose GPS. Progress page is what we use to double check that we have. I set in the threshold, tweet right threshold in, so we always know the distance there. Perf. Add some brakes, speed brakes. Perf is, we add the approach information in 299 16 degrees, and 290 at 12. It's the wind with 213 barrow. Oh. It goes in here. I'm glad I rechecked that. Fuel prediction, make sure our fuel prediction is still good. We're even fatter on fuel than we thought. And then a second flight plan, copy everything over into the second flight plan, just to make sure it's there in case we do something silly and get rid of it. Alright, I like to hang out on the perf page. We are descending at 280 knots now via the arrival. Coming up on flows. I like to put in a 30-mile ring around the airport, because that's about where we should be, no higher than 10,000 feet.
San Francisco traffic, American 1996, clearing 26 right at Echo Short, 26 left, San Francisco.
Alright, coming through 18,000 feet, push. That did not make sense. What's the current weather? Yeah, 3009. Two 90905. I had the wrong altimeter sitting in there. I thought that looked goofy. Alright, 29905. There we go. Left center, and it's 1014.1.
Alright. Now we're ready. And then this hooks right up with the ILS approach at Archie, I believe. Yep, there's Archie.
San Francisco traffic, American 1996, crossing 28 left at Echo, San Francisco.
In fact, we can go ahead and put 1,800 feet in, since that's going to be our intercept altitude. If you leave the speed brakes out and the airplane starts to add power, that's when you get that master caution. Thrust idle.
San Francisco traffic, American 1996, clear of 28 left at Echo, taxi Alpha, Mike 1 for Bravo 27, San Francisco traffic.
We're getting high again. See how we're above the vertical path, the yo-yo, and we're at the top of the speed arc, top of this speed setting. We're going to be between 12 and 10 when crossing CDs, which we are. We're also going to slow down 250 knots right about here. And we're slowing down. We're at plus 10. I'm just going to throw the engine anti-ice on as our TAT may go down once we slow down. Should go down when we slow down. Yep. See, I've just dropped to plus 9. We'll probably be at about plus 7 by the time we get to 250 knots. And it may cool down if we get in these cloud tops. Thrust idle. We're getting really high now. The gap is widening. Put out 50% speed brakes. Alright, I'm in my 30-mile ring. San Francisco traffic, Northwest 349, 30 miles southeast around the Diamond arrival. We'll be setting up for the Alice. 28 right, San Francisco. Speed. Alt. Star. Now we'll start back down. Alt constraint. Descent. Alt is blue. We're at 10 degrees and visible moisture, so the anti-ice will stay on. I've already done the approach checklist. Plus 11 now. We can come off the anti-ice. Coming up on 6,000, which is our minimum altitude at Zild. Glide slope's alive. We should meet up with the glide slope right at Dumba. We're going to enter approach mode here in a second. That's what the armed D means, the magenta D. Here we go, slowing to green dot. San Francisco traffic, Northwest 349, 20 miles southeast at Gurr intersection. ILS, 2-way right, San Francisco. Slowing very nicely. Here's some terrain, and now that we had quite a bit of activity on the radar, but it'd be nice to see the terrain map. It's kind of cool when you're coming to San Francisco because you got the ridge along the south of the airport and then the water. Dialing the range, 4,000. Here comes the low. Clear for the approach. Lokestar glide slope is blue Cat 3 dual AP 1 and 2. Loke. Axmul is the final approach fix. San Francisco traffic, Northwest Tree 49, 1-2 mile final, 2-way right. Glide slope star. Ooh, that's an awkward capture. See how it leveled off? Runway's in sight. Go to flaps 1.
$2,500.
to be flaps. Oh no, flaps 1 by 2000. According to Airbus. Now the Airbus the Airbus slows down a little bit better than this. I now know. Well, that's not necessary. Let's put the boards out. Because I'd like to be configured here. San Francisco traffic Northwest 349. About a 6-mile final to it, right? Alright, let's just get the gear out. Help slow us down. Flaps 2. Speed checks. Flaps 2. Flaps 3, speed checks. Flaps 3. Flaps full. Speed checks. Flaps full. We are in VMC, so we can be fully configured and stable at 500 feet. Yeah, the Sim Phoenix does not slow down quite as much as as easily as the real airplane does. Do not have the anti-ice on.
500.
Check. Stable. Cat 1. Land.
Hundred above. Minimum.
Landing. And continue. What am I saying?
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Spoilers. Versus green. Decel. $70 knots. Manual braking. Alrighty, going to Charlie 7. San Francisco traffic, Northwest 349, we're clear 28 right. Crossing 28 left at Echo. Taxi to the terminal. Charlie 7. Taxi on an Alpha. Just the second left. Just want to watch my brakes. Charlie, excuse me, Charlie 7.
San Francisco traffic, mic check please.
5x5.
Thank you.
San Francisco traffic, United 617, push back in the alley at Echo 2, San Francisco.
Going to Charlie 7, which should be right over there. Yep. So we'll go in here, spot 5. Charlie 7. Come on, keep rolling. Brake set pressure's normal. As soon as we stop, first officer CM2 gives the bleed, and we can shut down. As soon as it's shut down, seatbelt sign can come off. Beacon at 10%. Beacon can come down. Seatbelts up. And then the first officer will then check nav. Ooh, that's a lot of drift. That's a little odd. And fuel. A lot of fuel. Looks like we're starting the oh, I never put the, that's why. Alright, doors are all open. Shutdown checklist. Parking checklist. APU bleed is on. Engines are off. Seatbelts are off. External lights are as required. Fuel pumps are off. Parking brake is set. And parking checklist is complete. Well, there you have it, folks. We have cheated death and wooed women once again. This time.
Traffic, Swiss 35 Golf is 10 miles final for Tweet.
This time in the awesome Northwest liveried Phoenix 320. Hope you enjoyed the flight. I hope you enjoyed my explaining the process I went through with the Airbus training. And again, if you have any questions, give me a comment, shoot me an email. check out my, it's on the YouTube homepage for Classic Jet Sim Pilot, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have if you think it's something you'd be interested in doing. Anyway, thanks for coming along with me today on this really fun flight. Fun getting back in the sim after being gone for a couple of weeks. And you know what? I'm CJ. I am your Classic Jet Sim Pilot. We will see you next time.